And we are learning new details tonight about the two people who survived this terrifying bridge collapse and two other individuals who, by a stroke of good fortune, missed the catastrophe by just minutes. Danny Freeman is out front live from Baltimore. Danny, what is the latest that you're learning about what is truly an unbelievable story of human survival?
Yeah, Brianna, the more that we're out here, the more that we learn about not only these stories of survival, but also, you mentioned it, those stories that are close calls as well. I mean, when you look at this bridge behind me, or what's left of this bridge behind me, you can imagine that enormous drop, those bitterly cold waters below, that violent collapse. And despite all of that, two people who were on that bridge survived.
It's a miraculous story of survival. We're learning new details about the construction worker who fell more than 185 feet into the water and lived. Jeffrey Pritzker, the executive vice president of Bronner Builders, says the Mexican national who worked for the company likely survived by swimming before being rescued by first responders. The man was treated at the University of Maryland Medical Center's Shock Trauma Center, but was released hours after the collapse. Pritzker added the worker is, quote, very, very upset. He does have injuries, and I understand he's very stressed out and is suffering from stress. A fellow worker from Bronner Builders told CNN Thursday the team likely would have been on their break at the time of the impact. That worker saying he requested a last-minute shift change ahead of Tuesday, likely saving his life. However, less is known about the second survivor, who Pritzker said was not part of their construction team. At Wednesday night's press conference, Maryland's Governor Wes Moore said he's spoken with a survivor who narrowly escaped with his life.
One of the survivors who I had the opportunity to speak with, one of the things he mentioned to me was as he was moving off of the bridge and literally saw the bridge fall right after he moved off, it was because it was a first responder who was telling him to move off of the bridge.
CNN has requested more information about this survivor from the governor's office and the Maryland Transportation Authority. Reporters asked exactly how those on the bridge were notified to get off as the vessel crashed.
Well, I think we'll find out by investigation what exactly happened. I know that the one person I spoke with, he said it was audibly, that the officer was telling him to move off.
We're also hearing a story from a driver who was stopped from entering the bridge just in time.
In all honesty, if my passenger wasn't a little bit late coming out to the car and getting into it, we probably very well could have been on the bridge when it collapsed. We were that close.
This comes as we continue to learn more about those workers presumed and confirmed dead. 26-year-old Dorlean Castillo Cabrera's body was found in a submerged pickup truck below the wreckage Wednesday morning. He was an immigrant from Guatemala who loved his construction job. 35-year-old Alejandro Hernandez Fuentes, a Mexican national, was also found in the truck next to Castillo. Miguel Luna was a father of three, an immigrant from El Salvador who lived in Maryland for 19 years. And Maynor Yacir Suazo Sandoval was a Honduran national, a husband and father of two. Luna and Sandoval are presumed dead.
He was the breadwinner for his children right now. God is going to provide for us too, so we can get together as a family and see how we can help each other, because at this moment, his wife is left with his girl and everything.
Now, one other thing, Brianna, that I'll note that we're learning this evening from Mexican officials is that that worker that we mentioned at the top of the piece who survived the collapse and was rescued, he's actually related to two other victims. So that means that 3 of the 8 people who were on that bridge when it collapsed earlier this week were all family members. 2 died, 1 survived. Brianna?
No wonder he is beside himself. Danny Freeman live for us in Baltimore. Thank you for that report.
In Baltimore, the largest crane on the eastern seaboard has now arrived at the collapsed Francis Scott Key Bridge. Its mission is to try to remove the twisted, heavy debris, clear the channel, and reopen the port of Baltimore. CNN's Gabe Cohen is still on the scene for us. Gabe, what's the latest?
Well, Allison, I just got off the phone with an official at the command center who told me they are hoping that crane, the largest on the East Coast, is going to get to work later today to start clearing the debris here from the Patapsco River. And we understand that 2 more cranes are also on their way, according to the Transportation Secretary, Pete Buttigieg. But look, this is going to be a massive project that takes many days, and that is because the scale of what we're talking about. The Dali, this ship, is the size of the Eiffel Tower, just turned on its side. And then, of course, there are those huge pieces of steel, the sections of the bridge. You can see part of them above the surface of the water, but most are down below. And so engineers right now are trying to figure out how they're going to cut that into pieces and start clearing away the debris. But bear in mind, it is going to have to be done in a very delicate and sensitive way because officials fear that the 4 missing construction workers are likely buried under that wreckage. And so once they have cleared all the debris, they're still hoping that divers can go in and recover those 4 remaining men, Allison. They're very focused on that, bringing closure to the families. But they do want to move forward with this salvage operation today. Again, the news being that that huge crane should be getting to work in the hours ahead. In terms of the NTSB investigation, we still don't know what caused that power outage, that total blackout on the ship where the pilot lost steering, lost the ability to control the vessel just before colliding with the bridge. We may not know that, Allison, for quite some time.
Gabe Cohen, thanks for explaining all the complexities here. All right, joining me now is Abe Eshkenazi. He's the CEO of the Association for Supply Chain Management. Mr. Eshkenazi, tell us what all of this is doing to the country's supply chain.
No, I think we've got to really take a look at overall the supply chain and in terms of the supply and inventory levels that we've had compared to the pandemic and some of the other disruptions that we have. This one is not as significant. This is a logistical issue. I don't want to downplay the impact that it has to Baltimore and the port. Obviously, you've got 15,000 workers at the port, 100,000+ individuals and support systems that are connected to the port. However, the other disruptions that we've experienced, unfortunately, have prepared us. We have higher inventories today. We have greater capabilities to respond to the challenges. And this is a logistical challenge. This isn't similar to what we experienced in the pandemic with the demand shifts and the demand surges and irrational buying. The logistical issues should be able to be handled by the other ports.
That's very good to hear how this differs from what everybody experienced during the pandemic. Is there a way to tell which products or goods will be most affected?
When you take a look at what's the inventory at that port, obviously you've got finished goods, obviously the inventory of automobiles coming in, as well as a whole host of other products and services. But when we take a look at the types of products that we have, predominantly finished goods coming into that port, we have higher inventories today. Unfortunately, we've had to work in a just-in-case environment, and that indicated higher inventories, greater visibility into our supply chains. So we're probably better off today to handle this type of disruption. I'm not minimizing the impact that it has, but collectively as a supply chain, we should find alternative ports, whether in New York, Virginia, Charleston. There are other opportunities for us to, enable the logistical part of this to get back into the supply chains.
So are you willing to say that consumers won't feel this, really?
It's hard to see how this will impact like the other disruptions that we have. While we may see some spot shortages, I don't think we're going to see the extent of the impact on inflation or prices that we've seen in the past with other disruptions.
Abe Eshkenazi, great to hear. Thank you.